welcome to CEC lectures. Myself, Dr. Preeti Jagwani. I am from Department of Computer Science, Arbat College, University of Delhi. So in this lecture of our programming series, which is programming in Java, we are going to take the topic of command line arguments as well as a method which is having variable number of arguments. So these are the two topics which we are going to cover today. Let us begin with command line arguments. So command line arguments, many of you must be understanding that what actually this command line arguments means. So basically when we want to pass information into a program while running it, this is going to be accomplished by passing that information using this command line arguments, and these command line arguments are actually given to main. So basically I can say that command line argument is an information that directly follows the program name on the command line when it is executed. So for example, when we talk about Java program, we say Java C, whatever the name of the classes, let's say test. So Java C test dot Java, and then we say Java C and at the time of running we say Java test. So here we are actually, when we are kind of executing this program by saying Java test, that at that time we will be using this command line. So these command lines are actually the arguments which are passed to the main function. They are stored as strings in an string array, which is this string arrays in turn is passed to the args parameter. So please recall the structure of the main. We say public static void main, and within the bracket the arguments are string args with the and an array sign. So basically args is the variable name of the array, and that array is of type string. And in order to access this command line argument inside a Java program, we need not to kind of do a lot of programming or something of that sort. Nothing. It is quite easy. The first command line argument, as it is an array, will be stored at args0. The second command line argument will be stored at args1, and then args 2 and 3 and so on and so forth. So let us try to understand this with the help of a very kind of a small program. So here we have a class, whatever the name is, I have named this as command line, then public static void main, and here we have a string args. So whatever arguments will be passed, whatever command line arguments will be passed, will be stored inside this args array, and this args array is of type string. And here within this main function, we have written for integer I is equals to 0, I less than args dot length I plus plus. That means here I want to access all the elements of this args array, and that it is going to print args 0 and the value of that args 0, then args 1, the value of args 1, and so on and so forth. So this is what it is. And how are we going to kind of we can say execute it? So in order to compile this program, we will say Java C command line dot Java, if that the program is stored in command line, program is stored in one of in a Java file which is named as command line, and when we are executing, we will say Java command line. That is what kind of we can say we can say it is the common scenario, and then we will say this is a test and then some 100 minus 1 or whatever. So after this command line, and please excuse me for the space here in between command and line, this should not be there. So the command line is actually the one name, and then we have some strings which are going to go into this args array, and these strings are nothing but the theis this, then is is a string, then test is a string, then 100, that's also taken as a string, because these all these parameters, which is this is a test 100 and -1, all these are going to be stored inside an ARGS array which is of the type string. And when we using that main program, when we are going to output that thing, so ARGS 0 is nothing but this, ARGS 1 is A is stored in ARGS 2, test is ARGS 3, while ARGS 4 contain 100 and ARGS 5 contain -1. So this is what we have taken a very small program, and whatever arguments through which are passed through the command line, those are stored here in that ARGS array. So this is what the I can say concept of command line arguments is here in case of Java. Now another thing which we need to explore here is uh, VAR ARGS, variable arguments. Variable arguments, that means variable length arguments, or the functions which are having the arguments whose length is not fixed. It could be 2 arguments, it could be 3 arguments, or it could be 4 arguments. I don't know how many arguments are going to be there. When we talk about this variable length argument, let us say there is a scenario in which this variable length argument is to be kind of we can say created. So what are the kind of actual we can say ways in which these variable length arguments can be handled. So before JDK 5, before Java Development Kit 5 version, there were two ways in which these variable length arguments are to be handled. One is if you have a requirement of a method in which there can be variable number of arguments, then in that situation you are supposed to overload that particular method. So one version will have one argument, another version maybe have two, then the next version may have kind of three arguments. But this is possible only if the maximum number of arguments is small and that too known earlier. So if the maximum number of arguments is small and known, then overloaded versions of the method can be created, and that method those versions will cater to one for each way the method could be called. Now this is fine, I can say, and it may be suitable for some cases, but it is only going to apply only to a narrow class of situation. Why I am saying narrow class of situations? Because I already told you that these number of arguments must be small and must be known. Another is kind of situation in which these maximum number of arguments could be large, and then we can use another approach in which the arguments were put into an array and then that array was passed to a method. So there were essentially kind of we can say two ways. One is to overload that method, another one is to store the arguments into an array and then passing that array to a method. But both of these kind of we can say ways are actually having their own limitations, and we can say these are the ways which are non-pleasing. And I have told you that these were the ways before our JDK 5. Starting from JDK 5, the variable arguments situation or variable length argument situation is handled in a very different way, because JDK 5 has included a feature that is going to simplify the creation of the method which is having a variable number of arguments, and this feature is known as Varargs. It is short name for variable length arguments. It is actually a method that is going to take variable number of arguments, and it is called variable arity method, or simply a Varargs method we can say. And here what all could be the scenario, or what all could be the situation in which we may need to have these methods which are having variable length of arguments. So, for example, a method that is opening an internet connection might take a user's name, password, the file name, the protocol through which the kind of transfer is going to happen, and so on. But it is possible that it should supply the defaults if some of the information is not provided. Now, what all information will not be provided, that is not certain. That means the number of arguments here is not certain. So, in this situation, it would be convenient to pass only the arguments to which the defaults did not apply. Or one very kind of, we can say, a common scenario in which we use a variable length argument is our kind of println method. So, the println method is the part of Java's library, or the printf method is the part of Java's library, and it is going to take a variable number of argument which it formats, and then it is going to print, it is going to give the output. So, that is another situation in which these kind of vararg methods can be used. So, till this point we have seen what actually this vararg method is, then what could all be the possible scenarios in which these vararg methods could be used. Before JDK 5, I have told you that there were two ways. One is to overload the program, and another one is to use the arguments inside an array, or to put the arguments inside an array and then to pass that method. Now, using that old style approach to variable length arguments, what was that style? In order to understand that, let us try to see this with the help of a program. So, here we have a class, whatever name you can have. The class is pass array. Now, as in our previous lecture we have also seen the utility of the static keyword. So, here we have taken one static method which is returning nothing, so void, so static void, and variable argument we are going to test. So, the name is var test, and within this we have used an integer array, and this integer array is going to with the help of this integer array we will be printing the number of arguments. So, we have number of arguments is equals to v dot length plus the term the constant contents, and for int x in v we are going to print x. So, for every element we are going to print its for every element of the array we are going to print the value of that element using this for int method, and this for int method we have already kind of, we can say, covered in our previous lecture. So, I hope you understand this whole scenario. So, for int x into v, system.out.print we need to print x, and then there is an ln. So, basically within a class we have used one particular method which is an static method, and inside that method we are going to use this integer array. Now, this integer array is going to be kind of, we can say, it's actually created in order to hold the arguments. So, for example, I am saying n1 is 10, n2 is let us say 3, n2 is an array with 3 elements, and n3 is an array with kind of, let us say, no element. So, while calling that function var test, once I am passing this n1, in the second kind of version I am passing this n2, which is kind of, in a way, we are passing 3 elements. For the first we are passing 1 element, and for again in the next call for this var test we are passing n3, and please remember that that is an static method. So, here it can be kind of directly used without creation of any of the object of this particular class pass array, because this var test is actually an static method. So, here we have kind of taken different arrays, n1 as only n1 having only one element, then N2 having 3 elements and N3 having no elements, and turn by turn we can say we have passed these arrays inside this method var test, which is a static method. So, this method var test is passed its argument through the array v, and this was kind of an kind of old style approach to variable length argument, which is taking arbitrary number of arguments. One, it is taking 0, another in the another call it is taking 1, and in the next call it is having 3. But what actually we have done, we have manually packaged an array before calling this var test. We have manually packaged N1, we have manually packaged N2, and so is N3, and it is actually, or we can say, not only tedious to construct an array each time we are calling this type of function, this is also kind of an kind of highly risky area or highly risky idea. I can say it is potentially kind of error prone. But here after JDK 5, when we talk about variable arguments feature, var arg feature, that is going to offer a simpler and a better option. Now let us try to see the syntax of that particular we can say method, which is the var arg method. So, a variable length argument is specified by three dots, or I can say 3 periods. For example, we will be using this kind of we will be having a reworked version of this var test program using this variable length argument feature. So, for example, this var test has to be kind of created as a variable length argument method. It will be returned as static void var test integer dot dot dot, that means precisely 3 periods of precisely 3 dots, and then the variable name v. So, what does it mean? This essentially means that var test is actually a method which is returning void. It is a static method. It is taking integer arguments, which are for them the name is v, the type is integer, but the number is not defined, because after integer we are going to use int dot 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 and then v, and this syntax tells the compiler that vartel can be called with either the 0 arguments or 1 argument or 2 argument or more arguments. As a result, what are we actually doing? We are kind of implicitly declaring v as an array of type integer, and thus when we will be using this array of type integers, which is v, inside the function var test, that will be used or that can be accessed using the normal array syntax. Let us see how it goes on with the help of a program. So, here we have class var args, and now we are going to use a variable length argument method which says static void var test integer 3 dots v, and then the whole program is the similar as that of the previous. In the previous situation, we have used this integer v as an array, and we have packaged this the parameters to be passed here inside the main manually, and here we will be see how we are going to see that how we will be doing this. So, here we have just what is the change here from the previous program is just the declaration of this var test as a variable length argument method by saying static void var test integer dot 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 v. Rest whole of the kind of the body of the method is the same, and then we will be using this var test inside the main function. We will be directly passing var test 10. In the next call we have passed var test 1 2 3 with, that means the 3 arguments, and in the next call we are passing no arguments. Now, please recall the previous version of this particular program, which was having 3 arrays, one N1 with first array n1 with one particular variable, second array n2 with 3 variables, and next one the n3 array with no variables. But here we need not to kind of uh, package that those arrays manually and then these are to be passed, because here we have this var test as a variable length argument method. So this is I can say one of the advantages, as we have bypassed, or we have kind of we are not requiring that thing anymore, that is the packaging of arrays and then passing those arrays inside this kind of var test method. Instead, this var test method has been declared as a variable length argument. So that is also possible. And inside this var test, as we can as we can see that V is operated as an array. Actually it is an array, and this 3 dots syntax of 3 dots actually tells the compiler that a variable name of variable number of arguments will be used, and those arguments will be stored in the array referred by V. Secondly, in the main function, this var test is called with different number of arguments. It has no argument, it has one argument, it has 3 arguments, and these arguments are automatically put in an array and passed to V. And in case of no arguments, obviously the length of that array will be kind of, we can say, 0. So if we see a method, they can have normal parameters along with the variable length parameters, that is also perfectly fine. That means this is not the situation that if we are using a variable length parameter, then normal parameters will not be used. No, this is not the situation. We can have a method with normal parameters along with a variable length parameter, but the condition here is that this variable length parameter must be the last parameter declared by the method. It cannot be in between, or it cannot be the first. It cannot prefix, or it cannot come before the normal parameter. So for example, if we have a method which is declared as, let's say, integer, whatever the name of the method is, then within the bracket, that means I am talking about the parameter list, we have integer a, integer b, integer c, and then int dot 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 values. That is perfectly acceptable. Also, one more restriction to be aware of, that there will be only one variable length argument parameter, there cannot be two. So for example, if we have this declaration which says that inside a method we have integer a, integer b, then double c or whatever, then a vels or a variable length parameter of type integer, that means integer 3 dots and vels, and then we have double 3 dots and kind of another variable name, that is going to give us an error, because of the restriction that there can be only one Varargs parameter. So in order to I can say bind up this whole concept, let us see a reworked version of that particular program var test method, and that this is going to take a regular argument as well as one single variable length argument. And the program goes like this, that here we are using var args with standard arguments also. So class is var args. We will be using a normal message, which is a normal parameter, and then a variable length argument. So static void var test string message is there, and then v, which is a variable length argument. Then within this system dot out dot println, we have seen that same kind of, we can say, body of the method which we are using since previous two programs, but here we have also used this message. So message plus v length plus the contents, the term content is there, and for int x, for that means for all x in v, we are going to print this x. and here this method, this var test method, we can say is actually ending. And within this, after within this class only, we have used a main. So var test, the now please remember, in this var test we need to pass one message parameter which is of type string and other parameters which can be of variable length. So here in the first call we have used var, the var test, the method message is one vararg, and we have passed only one parameter to the variable length option. Then in the next call, along with the message, we have passed 3 parameters, and in the last call, along with the message, which is the normal parameter, we have not passed any of the any of the variable length arguments. So this was actually, we can say, a kind of reworked version, and the program, the output of the program is one vararg and then 1. The contents will be 10. This is all what all we have kind of printed inside var test. One is the message being printed, another one is the length of the v is being printed. So 1, 3 and 0, and not only the length but also the contents are being printed, which are 10, 1, 2, 3, and then for the last call there are no contents because that is a 0 length, we can say this. So here in this program we have understood the concept of command line arguments, and also we have gone through variable length argument feature which is provided after JDK5, and that we have seen through some programs, that is in quite detailed. Here is a list of references which is being used for the preparation of lecture. Hope you have enjoyed one. I'll see you in the next lecture. Till then, take care. Goodbye.